Ridge Community and Technical College offers over 50 degree and certificate programs in education, IT, culinary arts, engineering, and so much more. Small class sizes, flexible schedules with evening and online classes with affordable tuition, plus financial aid is available to those who qualify. Now you can go to college. Visit us online at blueridgectc.edu. That's blueridgectc.edu. Stop waiting and enroll today.
Come out and join members of the West Virginia University Mountaineers baseball program as they come to the Eastern Panhandle to host a traveling camp June 13th at Oakesdale Park, home of Martinsburg Little League. This camp will feature fundamental skills in hitting, infield, catching, pitching, and base running. It runs from 5:30 to 9:30 p.m. on Wednesday, June 13th. Cost is $50 per player, and you will be able to register at wvucamps.com. Again, that's wvucamps.com.
Talk Radio WRNR studios. It's time for Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob Mario and David Welch.
Thank you, Cliff. Good morning and welcome into the Friday edition of Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave, brought to you in this first segment by the law offices of Hammer, Ferretti, and Schiavone, delivering first-rate service and results for our clients. Good morning, David.
Hey, good morning to you. Happy Friday. Another soggy one. Haven't seen the sun in so many days.
Get used to that.
I mean, it's just terrible.
There'll be a couple more,
it's
too.
It's terrible. Get me out of here.
Talked with Eddie Gokenauer from Homeland Security and Emergency Management here in the Eastern Panhandle, also from the Berkeley County Schools Transportation Department, Brian Potts and Eric Kiesacker, about the road closures in the area. And I don't know if you heard just about a half an hour ago, maybe a little less, Eddie Gokenauer's plea to motorists: if a road is blocked, if it is closed down, and you see the signs because of water, don't drive around the road closure sign and go into the water. They had to rescue a couple of people who did that yesterday. You're not only endangering yourself, you're endangering the emergency workers.
That sounds like very, very good advice. And just down the road in Frederick, I was looking at TV clips of that whole situation in the city of Frederick, and that looks pretty dangerous as well with all that water.
We go now to the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. Senator Joe Manchin is standing by there. Senator Manchin, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, good morning, Rob and Dave. How are you all?
Great to have you, sir.
Oh, it's great to be with you.
We're drying out. We're trying to, but it keeps raining more on us.
Back in West Virginia, so
yeah,
I'm happy.
Hey, I'd like to talk to you, if we could, right off the bat about North Korea. I know that you spend a lot of time with our armed services, and maybe you could tell us what's going on with the latest change of mind by the North Korean dictator as to whether or not he's going to meet with President Trump and whether or not he's going to give up his nuclear arsenal.
You know, Rob, I think I've been on armed services for 6 years now. I'm on Intel for 2, so I've had a pretty good look at this. And these are just my own thoughts. China is the key player in all this. And this whole thing about the trade deals, I'm in sync with the president on the trade deals. I think we've made lousy trade deals over the year. And to be able to have a country to have a $500 billion deficit, a trading deficit, that means we're buying $500 billion more a year from them than they're trading with us. So that's very unfair, and that's where we are with China. But China is the whole link to this, as far as I believe if North Korea believes it has the backing and still support, and China will always be there for them. They're going to play this game back and forth. Kim Jong-un is the third generation. His grandfather did it in a level. It's exactly the same tactics. His father has done this, and now he's doing it playing with higher stakes because of the nuclear weapons. So he's playing at a little higher level. But he believes that that's his only salvation as far as survival, because he looks at what happened to Gaddafi in Libya and other areas and other places in the world, and he says, this is my ability to keep me still alive and my regime still safe and alive. If he knows that he's getting backfilled by China, he's fine. If China says, listen, Kim Jong-un, you're on your own now. You better make your best deal you can, because we're dealing with Americans on the front end of our economic survival. So the tactics that are being used are it's really a chess game. The rhetoric is not the norm, but there's no normal rhetoric coming out of Washington on any side of the equation. So I think at the end of the day, there will be a conference. I think there will be a meeting. I think he knows he knows that the United States, President Trump is adamant that you're going to have to be denuclearized in perpetuity, not just for a short period of time, which is why I thought the Iran deal was a bad deal. I voted against the Iran nuclear deal for those reasons, Rob, and it was a short period of time. We never really got into controlling their ballistic missile capabilities, and then we never basically demanded them stopping the proliferation as far as in support of terrorism around the world. And we gave them all the money on the front end, so it wasn't a deal that was a deal that I thought was good at all, and it was a temporary deal. And 15 years is the blink of an eye over there. So all of this, it's a dicey game right now. But if we can pull this off, if this happens, it stabilizes the Korean Peninsula. It basically stabilizes Japan's ability to participate in the global economy in a much different way without the threat of always looking over its shoulder to North Korea. And maybe we can get a better, and we should, have a much better deal with China. Another thing I've said about trade deals, I believe in bilateral trade deals, not multilateral. Multilateral, you'll get 3, 4, 5, or 10 different countries. We legitimately are trying to raise and help other countries raise themselves out of abject poverty. You're going to give them different entrees into your marketplace than you are other countries that have a matured economy. And when you have more than 2 or 3 or 4 in these multilateral deals, there's people taking advantage. So I am all in on bilateral deals. That means, perfect example is we should have a trade deal with Mexico, and we'll have another separate trade deal with Canada. All these trade deals should have at least a 5-year, what we call a sunset review. That would mean every 5 years you have an intent of why you did the deal. There's a reason for us to do a deal with these countries. After 5 years, you have a mandatory sunset clause that you have to review it. If it's not meeting the intent, then basically it should be either scrapped or changed, or you can continue if it's doing the job you want it to do. This is all common sense stuff. And the other thing with trade deals, why should we allow a country, and I'll give you an example, let's use China. Why should China be able to come to our country, the United States of America, be able to buy into our grid system, the resources of our minerals, buy into basically our financial services, when we can't do that in their country? So I'm just a common sense trader that if you're going to allow me and my economy and my capitalist mentality come in and do all the things that I want to do in your country, then we'd have to reciprocate and let you do it. But I'm not going to let you come in uncontested or unfeathered when you absolutely have blocked everything because of your government control. I know this is a long answer, but this thing, it is so entwined. But, we'll see what comes out of it. I'm hopeful that we have a resolve, that we denuclearize North Korea, that this deal opens up the DMZ and that border crossing. And let me tell you, it's no different than what happened when the Iron Curtain came down and the wall in Berlin was broken and taken out. It didn't take that long for the economy to take over to where the East could catch up to the West in Berlin.
Senator, hi, it's Dave, and it's always nice to have you, as we say here on the show. If your name is Joe or Shelley, we always make time for you. Let's stay on the sort of the international stage here a little bit. The Senate confirmed Gina Haspel yesterday as the new CIA director. There was some controversy to that. You were one of 6 Democrats who crossed over and gave the president the support that he needed to get her through. Interested in why you decided to confirm Gina Haspel?
Well, first of all, I was the first Democrat, and really we should not be looking at Gina Haspel from the eyes of a Democrat mentality or philosophy or a Washington toxic atmosphere or a Republican. And the reason for that is one of the most important positions we have in the defense of our country. And if you don't have a robust, active intelligence community, covert, clandestine, and overt, I'm on Intelligence Committee, so I'm privileged to see all the secret documents that we operate and how we do the job we do to keep America safe. We have never had anybody come before, and I look back through history, we were able to do a deep, what we call a deep dive We were able to look clear back at her career starting 33 years ago. This is an accomplished American. No matter what the gender, female or male, this is a most accomplished American who I was extremely proud of how she's defended our country. She's been in the hot spots of the world, and you have to put yourself in the mentality, thinking back, okay, 9/11, 3,000 Americans were killed by an attack by a foreign entity. That has never happened again on our soil. It never happened since Pearl Harbor. Think of our mentality in Pearl Harbor. How in the world could we ever been of rational thinking that we rounded up citizens, Japanese American citizens, and interned them? It was horrible. But I guess that's what the decision was made, thinking the safety of our country. I don't know. I can't put myself in that mindset. I can put myself in the mindset of 9/11. Sheikh MZ, he basically is the mastermind. They captured him in 2002. They have him in one of the confines that we have in Thailand. She was over this operation. She did not order this. She did not break the law. She didn't do anything except do her job. And now we're thinking, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't have done that. What's your moral compass? You've heard all that. And what's your thought process? She was very clear. She says, listen, what we know today, and you can put yourself back at 9/11, all we cared about at 9/11, was there any other plans? Was there any other plans to do harm and kill more Americans? And we needed this information because we had no idea that this type of atrocity could ever happen on the soil of America. So now all of a sudden they're saying, well, we shouldn't have done waterboarding. Well, waterboarding under George W. Bush, it was an accepted procedure for interrogation. Now we have different experts saying it should never be used, shouldn't have been used. It did not give us the results we needed. Well, we know we got an awful lot of pertinent information that I truly believe it saved an awful lot of lives around the world that we were able to extract and help other countries from the attacks that were being planned. So I've just looked at it, and we've never had a person that's come up through the clandestine ranks that understands the hot spots, the dangers of the world, knowing what we need to do to keep America safe. And I've said this, we have an awful lot of allies that are very good at what they do as far as in the intelligence realm, whether it be our allies in UK, Israel, France, they're all very good. But none of them are as good as we are in the United States. And we have 17 different intelligence agencies that we count on. Everyone hears about CIA, FBI, NSA, NCIS, all those. You see that, and they have been glamorized on TV. But I can tell you, the depths of what these people do, I think, are the greatest service to our country because they put themselves in harm's way. She's going to be able to lift that morale. She's able to understand exactly what they're dealing with and exactly what we need to do to keep America safe. So I was all in on Jean. I spent a lot of time speaking to her. She'll be working directly with our committee, and I encouraged all my colleagues to vote for her because she was the right person. And I was proud to be able to be up there first and try to get some of my Democrat colleagues. We lost a few Republicans, but we picked up more Democrats, and I was happy that Mark Warner, the ranking member on the Intelligence Committee, along with Richard Burr, both of them are very good friends. And it was a good day. It was a good day to get Gina there, and she'll hit the ground running. You can be sure of that. You should be proud because the only thing you have to think about, Dave and Rob, since 9/11, and we know we've had a target, the biggest target on the backs of this country, United States of America, by terrorist organizations around the world. We are the Super Bowl if they can do anything to us. And for us not to have an absolute major horrific event such as 9/11 happen in this period of time that we're talking about 17 years later shows you the quality of people and the work they're doing for us.
Senator Joe Manchin, our guest here at Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave. Do you have time for one more question, sir, or must you go?
Sure. No, we're good.
Yeah, we've come through the primary election season. We know who your general election opponent will be. In the primary, you handily defeated Paula Jean Swearingen, but she did get 30% of the vote. Was that a message to you? Does that number of people who didn't vote for you in your primary make an impact on you one way or the other?
Well, I guess Patrick could say he didn't get 65% of the Republican vote.
That's very true.
Okay? So, you have to look at this thing. I've said this, and I recognize the political atmosphere we have in America today. We got wonderful talk shows like you and Dave. We've got 20.
We appreciate that.
Thank you. We're going to put that in a
That's a new commercial now.
Well, let me just say this, and I mean it, guys. You bring in both sides. So there's a Fairness Act. It was in broadcasting. FCC had a Fairness Act that basically up until 1980s, you had to have both sides. You do that, and you still do it voluntarily. There's a lot of TV shows. There's a lot of radio talk show hosts. They only bring one side on. So this is all the public hears. If they like your show, they're only going to hear one view. Well, thank goodness for your show, they're hearing both sides. And you're always going to have 20, 30% on the fringes, on both, from the far right to the far left. So I expected that. Paula Jean is a good person. I've met with her. We had differences as far as ideologically, but we could identify the same problems. I can identify the same problem, whether it be Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, all my friends, or whether it be Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. We can identify the problems. Every one of them have a different way of solving it. I try to find a pathway forward to get something accomplished. That's the difference. So with that, I think it'll be a spirited campaign. I'd like for Patrick to answer one question. What brought you to West Virginia? How did you get here? What was your purpose? That's all. I mean, everyone has a reason. I'm lucky I was born and raised here, and it's a passion. West Virginia is all about my passion for this great state, but other people, we have to know that and how we're going to solve these problems, and knowing that we have challenges. Certain parts of our state have different challenges. You're in a part of the state that has tremendous opportunity because of our location, because of the quality of life, and because of the beauty of the area. So we have to capitalize on all this.
Senator, it's interesting that on the Pat Morrissey's campaign is centered around his championing, as he says, of West Virginia values. When you hear that, what goes through your mind, and how do you define West Virginia values differently than, let's say, how the Attorney General defines West Virginia values?
Here's the thing, and everybody has to explain the reasoning and value. And I understand it would be difficult for Pat to be understanding that if you weren't born and raised with the culture. I'm born in Farmington, West Virginia, a coal mining community of about 400 people. I've seen the hard work. I saw the compassion. I saw the determination. I saw how people will hold you accountable and responsible for your actions. They expect you to contribute and give something back, and they expect you to do the best you could, always. But they had that compassion in their eyes. When I saw mine accidents when I was a young child in Farmington, and a miner would get killed in the mine, I watched the whole community rally around the widow and the children and help them and take care of them. And all. There was no social nets back then. So I said our values in West Virginia is based around our priorities in West Virginia should be based around the values. What is important to us? Family, number one. The children of the family. How do we give these children a good start in life? And then you have, that education system, the nutrition system, everything that we're doing, health care. And when you have a state that doesn't have those opportunities, then you've got to make sure that's my priority, and that's based on my values. How about our military? One of the most patriotic states in the nation. Well, I've had every member of my family serve. I didn't have the honor of serving because I had a horrible knee injury, but with that, I still wanted to. But I know who this country and who we are and the sacrifices we've made for the United States of America and the part that we played. I've said we've got more veterans per capita than most any state in the nation. We fought in all the wars and conflicts, shed blood, and lost lives. But on top of that, man, we did the heavy lifting too. We've done the mining, the manufacturing, built guns, and made the mined the coal, made the steel, built guns and ships. So this little country's done everything she could. And then our senior citizens. Every senior ought to have the right to live with dignity and respect and pride independently as long as they possibly can, as long as they want to. I did more, as a governor, more programs for the seniors and seniors to have the ability to live with some dignity. than it's ever been done. So I know who I am, and I know who my state is. And everybody else is going to have to answer their experiences and what they think it is.
Senator Manchin, thanks so much for your time this morning. We very much appreciate it.
Hey guys, let's keep in touch. There's a lot going on right now. This is a tough campaign season, but let me tell you one thing: politics should not rule the day to where we're making decisions based on getting reelected or getting any type of thing on self-service. I've said this: public service is the greatest honor you'll ever have in your life. Any way you want to serve is the greatest. It's still the most honorable profession, but it has to be about public and not self-service. The voters have to determine who's in it for the right reason.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you, guys.
Well
Appreciate
said.
you.
You're welcome anytime, Senator. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Senator Joe Manchin appearing courtesy of the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line. We go from U.S. Senator Joe Manchin to State Senator and Finance Chairman Craig Blair, who is with us this morning. Craig, thanks for holding. We appreciate your patience, sir.
Not a problem. So, good morning, Dave and Rob. But can I address something on Patrick Morrissey there as I'm sitting there listening to Senator Manchin? And that is that they talk about when Evan Jenkins, who I liked all these guys in the debate and on there, they're good people. But I've known Patrick Morrissey since about 2008. Okay, that's 4 years before he ran in 2012 for Attorney General. He was out here working behind the scenes to make it so there was better opportunities in West Virginia for the business. I met him through the EPBA, the Eastern Panhandle Business Association. And then he was helping with Republican causes behind the scene. And when it come 2012, we got to looking at who we had on the ballot for Attorney General. But once he put his name on the ballot and everything, he immersed himself into it. Look, here's the bottom line. We talk about West Virginia values and everything. We have had basically a stagnant population since 1950, 1.8 million people. And it's declined somewhat, and thank God for the Eastern Panhandle where people are moving in. They call him a carpetbagger. Well, he didn't move to the state of West Virginia to run for Attorney General. He didn't run to the state or move to the state of West Virginia to run for U.S. Senate. That's not it at all. In fact, when he did live in New Jersey, he came in last place. That's because his values didn't mesh up as well with the New Jersey voters as what they do with West Virginia. He has done a phenomenal job from that standpoint. And frankly, I'll take another million carpetbaggers moving into West Virginia. That way, we wouldn't be going from 5 congressional seats in 1950 down to, well, in 2022, we're going to have 2 congressmen, not 3. We will have lost another one on that. So I'm just letting the people know out here that there's a lot, especially in our area, we don't reject outside of opinions and thoughts and people moving here. And the rest of West Virginia could actually benefit by that.
I'm just jealous of Pat Morrissey because I carpetbagged to West Virginia in 1988, and I ended up as a talk show host, and he's running for the U.S. Senate, so maybe that's my problem.
Well, and I can make another comment on this, but it's the people that have moved here have done a lot. Look, I'm a lifer. I was born in Martinsburg, King's Daughter Hospital in 1959. But the people moving here have given us a much broader perspective on the world and how we live than what a lot of the rest of West Virginia is. You can actually go to some parts of West Virginia, and the economy is so depressed. You can buy a house for $20,000 that it costs $200 a year. You see where I'm going with that? If we had more people, more businesses in West Virginia, that we could actually bring people in for those jobs as well as West Virginians with those jobs, now you start solving the problems that we have in West Virginia.
We're talking with State Senator and Finance Chair Craig Blair here at Eastern Panhandle. Talk with Rob and Dave. Our Friday group will join us in a few minutes. We're skipping through the 8:31 network news break here, by the way. Craig, you have some numbers fresh off the presses, so to speak, in terms of the latest revenue generation in the state. How do we look?
Well, for the month of April, we did a little bit better than we did in the previous month. And with that said, I'm trying to get my numbers. You got me all wired up on that last one there. So
Calm down.
In the month of April, we were up $23.7 million above estimate. And what that means is that for the year, for our fiscal year, which will end on June the 30th, we are still about $4 million under. So it bounces back and forth. Sometimes we're above estimate, sometimes we're below. But here's where the real numbers are on it. There's more people back to work in the state of West Virginia because the personal income tax collections are up about $52 million over the yearly estimates that we had. That's a good thing. And that actually helps in the long run because when you've got more people back to work, then you've got less money being expended, whether it's through unemployment or the services that are provided for people that are unemployed, whether it's coming through the DHR or whatever. Now, the consumer's sales tax for last month was actually off about $3 million. It's just a little bit less than that. And for the year, we're still to almost $27 million below the estimates because people aren't spending. And actually, West Virginians are good people. And I think that, we're still recovering from the tough economic times, so they ran up debt, credit card debt, and things like that. And I think a lot of what takes place, and let's not forget internet sales that are siphoning off of it, but I think a lot of them are paying down their credit cards. And so you won't.
Did we lose Craig? Sounds like the cell zapped and he was gone.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, it was right in the middle of the rest of that report. I wanted to ask Craig, and hopefully we'll be able to get him back. We'll do the news break now that we are late for. We'll do the local news break. I wanted to know if the revenue numbers that he just talked about affect the ability to pay for the raises that were legislated in this past session, which includes not just teachers, but all state employees.
Sounds good.
8:35, and the rest of the group joins us out of the news break here.
I've got a picture in the back of my mind of what I've lost.
Since 1877, Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies have proudly supported our local community. Farmers and Mechanics has the insurance products to meet your needs, including home, auto, farm, dwelling fire, business owners, and umbrella coverage. Please contact your local independent agency for a review of your insurance needs and ask for a policy from the company that knows you best. Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies, just off Edwin Miller Boulevard on Administrative Drive in Martinsburg. FMIWV.com.
Good morning. The Berkeley County Council declared a state of emergency yesterday in response to severe weather forecast in the area. After that was declared, City Council President Doug Copenhaver activated the county's Emergency Operations Plan and the Operations Center for the coordination of information and resources. National Weather Service predicting major rainfall for Berkeley County. Officials say the forecast has potential to cause dangerous driving conditions. More hepatitis A cases being investigated in West Virginia. Health officials saying that a food worker at a McDonald's and the American Inn in Hurricane, along with someone at Nitro's Bucks Pizza, were diagnosed with the disease. There have been dozens of cases reported throughout the area. And finally, millions of dollars in bonds going on sale to fund West Virginia's major roadways program. The governor saying $800 million in bonds will be available starting on Monday to fund the Roads to Prosperity program, and they're highly rated. It'll help finance over $2 billion in road infrastructure improvements. They'll rebuild and reconstruct West Virginia's aging roads and bridges. I'm John DeMaster.
Now, with your local forecast, weatherman Bob Kukin.
Our weather forecast for the Eastern Panhandle starting to show some change in the trend that we've been experiencing here for the last several days. Flood warnings continue in effect along the creeks and the rivers. Flood watch in effect into tomorrow morning. And more showers in our forecast for today. This afternoon, maybe a couple of thunder showers too, and a couple of heavy downpours possible. Our forecast high near 68 degrees. Showers and a couple of thunder showers overnight tonight. Again, a good soaking with a low near 55. Tomorrow, the weather front that's been causing all this rain starts to move northward. We'll see temperatures into the lower 70s. The rain diminishes considerably late in the day. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
64 And note 2, road closures this morning of Peckin Lane, Douglas Grove, Henshaw, Golf Course Road, Grapevine, Allensville, and Scrabble Road. That from Eddie Guckenauer from Homeland Security and Emergency Management.
Why Apple Valley Chevrolet Toyota in Martinsburg? Because we're a name you can trust. And you can trust that you'll always find a large selection of over 400 new Chevrolets and a wide selection of new Toyotas at unbeatable prices. How unbeatable? Well, we will not be beat on any deal on any new Chevrolet or Toyota. That's right. You will not find a lower price, guaranteed. From Chevy Cruzes, Malibus, Impalas, Equinox, Suburbans, Silverados, to Toyota Yaris, Corollas, Camrys, Avalons, and more. No one beats an Apple Valley Chevrolet Toyota deal. And remember to check your mailbox for this month's specials and great savings. Simply put, if you're in the market or will soon be in the market for a new or newer vehicle, check out all that Apple Valley Chevrolet Toyota has to offer. We're Apple Valley Chevrolet Toyota in Martinsburg, or online at applevalleychevy.com. That's applevalleychevy.com. Apple Valley Chevrolet Toyota, a name you can trust.
Hi, this is Rob Mario. I grew up on my Sicilian grandmother's home-baked pizza. If you want home-baked traditional Italian pizza the way the Italians do it, you want Brothers Pizza. They now bake their pizza pies in a real brick oven, the old Italian country way. You see, that takes the moisture out, gives the pizza a more crispy taste. And Brothers Pizza uses only the finest and freshest ingredients. You can dine in, you can carry out, you can have it delivered. Brothers Pizza, real Italian pizza from a real brick oven. 263-3322. Dine in or delivery done right. Hi, honey.
Where are you?
I've been in line at the post office for the last 30 minutes.
Why are you at the post office? It'll take you all day.
Where else do I go to ship my packages or drop FedEx off at?
Honey, going postal is way faster, has less lines, and friendly service.
Where's going postal?
It's right in the Common Shopping Center in Martinsburg. They'll ship your packages quickly, and you can avoid the lines.
Going postal should be your first choice for all your shipping needs. Going postal, the Commons, Martinsburg. This segment of the program brought to you this morning by the Washington Nationals. On Sunday, the Nats and Harris Teeter are teaming up for a Kids Superhero Cape giveaway when the Nats take on the Dodgers at 1:35. The first 10,000 kids ages 12 and under get a superhero cape. Plus, they'll all be able to take a flight around the bases, too.
I'm going to that game. Do I get a flight around the bases?
If you bring someone 12 and under, you might be able to run with them and maybe get permission. I don't know. So that's after the game there. Visit nationals.com for more information about whether or not David Welch can get a cape on Sunday and run the bases. Berkeley County has declared a state of emergency due to the current flooding conditions, and the Sterling Office of the National Weather Service predicting additional heavy rainfall in the next 48 hours. The Berkeley County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management has opened the Berkeley County Emergency Operations Center with the anticipation of additional flooding. All emergency response agencies in Berkeley County have been notified and put on alert. The Department of Highways has been monitoring roadway flooding. They've closed several roadways that are impassable due to high water. And again, those roadways are Peckin Lane, Douglas Grove, Henshaw, Golf Course Road, Grapevine, Allensville, and Scrabble. We're encouraging motorists do not drive through flooded roadways. I know I shouldn't have to say this. This is me at the
Say it again so they really get it, Rob.
But I'm saying it because we heard from Eddie Guckenauer about an hour ago that there are people actually driving around the blocks, the blockades that have been put up and going into flooded roadways and then requiring emergency help to get out.
Despite the blocks. So there's blocks up and they go into the danger zone anyway.
Indeed. You're not just endangering yourself, you're endangering the emergency workers who have to then come and save you. So don't do it. Please find an alternate route to travel for your safety. We're also encouraging residents that live in low-lying areas prone to flooding, especially near streams and rivers, to monitor conditions and be prepared to evacuate if necessary. Eddie Guckenauer reported this morning that they are seeing some of the waters recede, but we are still expecting additional heavy rains in the forecast as we work our way into and through the weekend. So please monitor the situation. It's 8:42, and in our last segment, we were talking with Finance Chair of the State Senate, Craig Blair, whose cell dropped. We could not hear him. He could hear us, oddly enough, but we could not hear him. And joining us in the conversation right now, also on the Finance Committee, Delegate Jason Barrett. JB, good morning to you.
Good morning.
former tax commissioner of the state, Mike Carr. Hello, Michael.
Good morning.
And attorney-at-law Joe Ferretti. Good morning, Joseph.
Good morning, Rob.
Now back to the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line and Senator Craig Blair. Craig, thanks for calling back. Much appreciated.
You're welcome, and good morning, gentlemen. What a fine group of people in there this morning.
Indeed.
Especially that Jason Blair.
I knew you heard that.
Isn't that nice? When he marries your daughter, he's going to take your last name. Isn't that nice?
Please don't start that.
Lovely.
And another reason for the Second Amendment.
There's a comment there. I won't make it, but there's a comment there. Craig, again, back to the state's finances. As I saw the report yesterday, quite detailed, and I know that locally you and House Majority Leader Darrell Coles were involved in some conversations, and the transcript showed many of the questions and answers you had received the information on. So from a financial standpoint, the numbers that you've seen, would you say that the state is on target to meet budget estimates?
Yeah, historically we do fairly well in the last 2 months to start with, and so we've still got those to go yet. I think we're going to be okay from that standpoint to meet those. But where it gets interesting, that's what I was talking about earlier. That I don't know exactly where I got cut off because I kept talking until you disconnected me, or went to commercial break. The personal income tax is up, and so there's more people employed. That's good news. Consumer sales tax is down, and I don't know how much of that went across the air that I was talking about, but we're down almost $27 million on the consumer sales tax. Some of that is coming from the fact that internet sales are out there, and then I also think people are paying down credit cards since they're back to work, and they've been drawn out of borrowing, so to speak, and they're paying that back. So they haven't hit to the point yet to where they can actually be doing some of the spending. The severance tax is off almost $16 million for the year. I don't think that either one, the consumer sales tax or the severance tax, that we're going to come back and meet the estimates for that. But the good news is the personal income tax is up significantly, and that takes demands off of other areas of government. So those are big pluses. And the corporate net reinforces the fact that things are good because that tax collection is up $1.7 million for the fiscal year. And so we're not doing too bad. Insurance tax is another one that is up almost $6.5 million for the year.
Craig, in the transcripts I read yesterday of the report, it showed that some of these numbers might be skewed by different dates of payment that are made to the state, that some of the taxes due normally would have fallen on a certain day that would have been counted for the month you're reporting on, but are a little late, and so therefore what we might see for May are larger numbers than we might expect. Is that true?
Yes, and that comes into play on that. Lots of times I get people that will come up to me and ask me, well, how are we looking for the month? And it really doesn't do any good at all to look at what you're doing somewhere in the middle of the month because of how the numbers come in and how the payments are made. And sometimes they come in later and then show up in the next month. So that affects things back and forth on what's going on with that. But overall, our last 2 months are normally strong months for that, and so I think we're going to be okay from that standpoint. But we have to keep in mind, though, that things still aren't rosy in West Virginia by any means. We're treading water, getting a little bit better in the sectors that we want to get better on, and for sure, and that is that people back to work. That personal income tax collection, that is a big, big deal. That's the one that's showing that the job creation and the work we're doing and getting people back into the workforce is having its benefits at this point in time.
The severance taxes being down seems to me to contradict what we've heard about more coal miners going back to work. For instance, I had heard as many as several hundred had gone back to work. Should we not have an increased severance tax instead?
Well, it depends on whether coal has been sold, you can stockpile that. That's one of the most interesting things that I see out there on coal when it comes to electrical generation. It's hard to stockpile anything other than nuclear. You can use it on demand to a greater degree when you're generating electricity, whereas coal, on the other hand, you can actually mine it, stockpile it, and then move it out as the market conditions demand that. So you can actually have people mining coal, and you won't see it in the revenue reports until the coal is actually sold, so to speak, or moving through the process through the chain.
I see.
See what I'm saying?
Anybody have any questions for Senator Blair? Jason, you're on the Finance Committee. Anything strike you?
Senator, you talked about the estimates on, actually not the estimates, but the actual real numbers from the severance tax on the extraction industry. I mean, while the numbers may look like they're down a little bit under projections, some of that is because last year's budget was actually a pretty aggressive revenue estimate to begin with.
Yeah. But you have that. They tried to get it right, but you have to understand that, yes, when you're trying to, the governor actually creates his own revenue estimates on some of these things and adjusts the numbers up and down accordingly on that. So it makes you a little bit nervous when that takes place. And we just went through that this year, where the governor tried to increase the revenue estimates, or wanted to increase them another $58 million in the middle of the legislative session, and that's why we refused to use those numbers as we were moving through, because it was too aggressive in our opinion. Hopefully we're wrong. I'd love to see an additional $58 million, and I think that when it was over and done with, he had, during this fiscal year, I don't have that number right in front of me, but it was already like $150 million more than the previous year. That's one of the things I wish that we'd go to in the state of West Virginia. Mike Carl might agree with me or disagree, but I think that the revenue estimates ought to be placed on what your previous year's revenues were for your budget, and then if you come in above that, then that's your surplus. Then you're allowed to use that in your next year's revenue estimates when you're developing a budget. That's the way we do it in households, unless nobody knows they're going to win the lottery. And things like that, or whether there's going to be things that come in that that's going to cost you more money. So you have to be a little bit conservative on this. But in West Virginia, the governor's office has the ability to set the revenue estimates.
Well, so would you agree that the legislature should play a role in setting those revenue estimates and not rely solely on the governor's numbers?
I'd love to do that, but currently it's not that way. Yes, I agree with that. And I've talked about where we ought to pass legislation and do it in such a way that what I just got on talking about, you use your previous year revenue estimates or revenue collections for your budget for the following year, or at least 6 months of them, something like that. It's hard to do it for the entire year, but you can. That is the numbers that you should be really working from, because you know that those are pretty good numbers, and you allow for it to go down. One of the things I haven't talked about this morning, too, is our rainy day fund. Rainy day A's got $269 million in it. Revenue, or rainy day Part B, is $400, almost $42. So we have $710 million, almost $711 in the rainy day fund. So that is holding well as well. We're doing well, put it that way.
Senator Mike Carl, I generally agree with, and it seems like Delegate Barrett agrees with you too about having other than the governor just has the right to set the number and everybody has to live with it. You need a lot. You need input, broader based input. The legislature is certainly involved in objective setting of the revenue estimates, and certainly the most recent year is a good indicator. I wouldn't tie us strictly to that. Need some discretion. Need to look at trends and so forth. But back on the severance tax, I'm hearing that the prices of both particularly coal, but gas as well, are going up. So there's just sort of a time lag between the collections and some kind of price increase that I think we're starting to see?
You already know the answer to that, and yeah, absolutely. your listeners do understand that you're a former tax commissioner, and so that's the reason I said that the way I did. Yes.
Boy, the severance tax collections on coal were horrible when I was down there counting the beans. And Governor Moore actually said, "What happened to it?" Well, I think the prices are down, Governor, and the production's down as well. We don't have a tonnage tax, so that's what your one of your points is, that until you have a transaction, and a lot of those transactions are actually out of state. They're counted here for the tax base, but until you have the transactions, you don't have a tax liability.
And here's another thing. I look at external sources on market conditions to identify trends as well. And right now, if you look at Chesapeake Energy's stock, it has been tanking even though they've been having positive revenues and managing things. And that stock has went down to $2.50 a share. And over the last week or so, it has moved up to right now it's like $4 and something a share. It's a very, very significant increase. And what it is it's got to do with energy prices that are actually climbing on the world market. And you can actually transfer that over and you say to yourself, yes, our severance taxes are going to go up because the energy sector is a lot stronger. Now, the bad part about that is that the fuel prices at the pump and all are going to go up as well from that standpoint. But you can actually see a strong energy industry right now.
But of course, that'll be the gas price at the pump be good for the highway fund revenues, won't it? The increase.
Well, yeah, but I'm not worried about that. I'm more concerned about making sure that people can afford to go to work, that businesses that are traveling back and forth, the transportation network, this all affects things here. And when you get too high fuel prices, then what it stifles the economy. We don't want to be able to do that. We want to keep the businesses and all flowing so that we've got that. I'd much rather see static or prices at the pump. But one of the side benefits is the road fund. One of the side benefits is the stock market, where people are benefiting from that in their 401ks and their retirement plans.
Senator, one last thing back on you were talking about part of the explanation for the less than estimated sales tax revenues is the internet sales. Supreme Court any day now is going to rule on whether that physical presence rule is still in place, and of course you can't build that into estimates, but that would certainly be welcome relief that the states would have more capacity to tax internet sales.
And this would mean that if you bought something online, you'd pay a sales tax in the state where you live, regardless.
Well, the state could require the vendor, based on a market sourcing, where it ends up, to collect the tax and send it in. If right now it's just based on physical presence, but Amazon collects tax for their own proprietary sales and for the sales of their vendors who have physical presence, for instance, in West Virginia, but not for the many that don't. So that would be a big improvement. But Senator, we don't have time for it right now. But I want to remind you that I have a solution to that. That West Virginia doesn't care about what the court does. We can fix that problem, but we don't have time for that.
Well, yeah, and let's keep something in mind on that too. I think the internet sales tax would actually be a good thing, but we don't have to look at it from the standpoint, okay, we're bringing in more tax dollars than we're going to spend more. No, and no. On that, what we want to do is actually make it so that you can actually have tax savings for our people and our businesses in the state of West Virginia that puts us on a more competitive setting so that we can get more people back to work in West Virginia. Keep in mind, I would sound like a broken record, but we have less than 50% workforce participation in West Virginia. That's got to change if you want to have a viable economy. In the Eastern Panhandle, we're in good shape. But when you start moving west and south, that's where we run into a problem. And we've got to get people employed and get them off of the rolls of the Medicaid and welfare and all that, and get them back into the workforce. And that's when you can have a growing economy in West Virginia.
Amen.
Craig, thank you very much for your time this morning.
I appreciate it, guys. Hey, can I say one last thing? Rob, the paperwork that I've been sending out to you, this is going to be on a monthly basis now for everybody, and I'm going to make it available to the public here before much longer. We're just trying to fine-tune it and come out. This is one of the new things that I'm doing as the finance chair. I'm trying to make it so that the average person can actually look and see what's going on in the state of West Virginia, and once we get it tuned up just enough, I want to get it out to the newspapers so that they can actually do, like the health department has their little report on how restaurants are doing, and whether I want the newspapers throughout the state to be able to take this and be able to put in each month into the newspaper where we're at in the state of West Virginia, so people can actually understand and be part of this and understand what's going on financially. Because when you see that, then you can understand the work that is being done in West Virginia on all levels and the past things that we've done. And that's even before the Republicans come in charge, to make our state better and more productive for the people. So,
all right, Craig, thank you.
Wanted to share that.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Senator Craig Blair, courtesy of the W Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line now. They are watching the Opequon level on the Route 9 bridge, and that's, of course, the new Route 9, because the water levels are rising apparently higher than they've ever been. That's the bridge over the Opequon on the new Route 9, and if you travel to the IRS building from Charlestown, you use that route. So that's a very important one, and they're watching that. So, again, stay alert. These are interesting situations we're finding ourselves in this past couple of days because of the unprecedented amount of rainfall that we've had here. It's pretty crazy.
That's the one when you leave Charlestown and go to Leesburg, right? That bridge on Route 9?
No,
that's not
we're
the
talking
one?
about just outside of town here, east on Route 9, the 4-lane.
Oh, okay, got it.
I drove by there
Okay.
yesterday morning at about this same time, and that field to the south was almost full of water.
Covered. Hey, it's 9 o'clock. This is Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg. Our news break is next.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Zoom Video Conferencing.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. A modern bride decides on a modern walk to the altar.